RJ. Another rough one. I don't know how else to
Yeah,
describe this.
yeah. The Kraken have now lost both ends of the back-to-backs that they've just played, falling 5-2 to the Edmonton Oilers. And I feel like a lot of us probably braced ourselves for this game. I don't know about you, I certainly did. Knowing the skill, knowing the speed, knowing everything that the Oilers bring and how good they've looked this season, I was kind of expecting, if you had told me ahead of time 5-2 Oilers was going to be the final, I wouldn't have been all that surprised. I would have been like, well, that sounds about right, given the game would break a certain way. But as for the details, I don't know, it happened in a different way than I expected, with the Kraken controlling a lot of the shots, a lot of the possession, 5-on-5, and really giving the Oilers a tougher game than I thought that it might go. But ultimately, doesn't that just make it more frustrating that they still lost 5-2, and it feels like we've seen this story before now.
Yeah, and because we have. We are officially 10 games into the season with this one. We've hit the double digit mark. Obviously, power play, like, that's a huge problem, but we've been talking about that for a while now. On this one, it felt similar to last night in the sense that, I'd love to see the heat map of their shots for this one, because I got to think they had just a ton of high danger chances right in front of the net. Just can't seem to ever convert on these. Um, I, I, I just don't know what's going to happen there. Bright spot for me for this one, Jaden Schwartz took my advice from last night. If you want to score goals, you got to shoot the puck. He came out shooting, got that goal. That was good to see. So positive there. Carson Soucy came back in, looked fresh, played well, I thought. So there was some good stuff. I think maybe the best thing for me was, and obviously, let in a decent amount of goals, but I thought Joey Decord actually played an okay game. You
Thought
know,
so too. You can't really put any of. I mean, it's hard to put those goals on him. The ones that went in, a lot of times it was a rush, 2-on-1 great pass, or like a tap in on that last. Like a lot of those, there's not a whole lot he could do about that. That deflection off Draisaitl's skate. There's just nothing you can do. I thought Decord did fine. I feel bad for him that the couple games that he's been in, the defense in front of him hasn't always been the best, or there's just been high quality chances against him. He's just been given a tall task both games he's gotten into.
yeah, the big thing for me was he stayed aggressive. He stayed, he was very present in this game, and I felt like he was present even after maybe the rest of the team wasn't towards the end there.
Hmm.
He wanted this win. He thought he could do it. I think if not for some weird fluky bounces and maybe some defensive breakdowns that didn't really help him out, I thought he played a really good game. And like I said, I was just really impressed with his mentality throughout, even especially after that first goal. Right? How many goalies have
Yeah.
we seen something fluky like that happens and they're just like kind of out of it maybe for the rest of that period, or at least a couple minutes. But he was right back. He was like, "Yep, it happened. Let's go." But
Yeah, he does not get phased by that sort of thing. And turning to chat now, I thought Joey's night was over after that fifth. It's best at that point just let him have the rest of the game. You don't want to involve make Grubauer get ready. Certainly with all the games that he's been playing. Just it's Joey's game. Not sure Gru saves many of those. Yeah, I think it doesn't. A lot of those, it doesn't matter who's in net. A lot of those are going in.
yeah, they were rough. I guess the one big one for me was on the second goal, the Draisaitl power play goal. Well, first off, like, that power play of theirs, right, coming in at 50%. Can you even imagine, Kraken fans, a power play
A
that you're scoring half the
50%
time?
power play.
Um, but that one, it was just like this total misjudged, mismanaged kind of mess by both Larson and Lauzon. It was clear Oilers are coming into the zone with immense speed, but we know they have. And both of them tried to just keep skating backwards, but it was clear they were going to be overtaken, which they were. Both players got behind them. Um, in that situation, as a defenseman, you got to recognize you are going to get beat. You got to start turning around. I know it's hard because you're turning your back on the play. You're limiting your vision of what the other team is doing. But you got to turn around, try to keep up with them and try to body them up in that situation. If you have Lauzon on the puck carrier and you have Larson take Draisaitl and kind of body up on them, you are taking away the pass in that situation. That's the benefit of having both of them there. Like, it's one thing if you don't have your defensive partner there, but for both of them to be there for that and both of them to just get beat straight up speed wise was just like, I don't know what was going on with that one, but at least one of them should have kind of recognized what was going to happen there and turned around, because I think that's just one of those things as a defenseman, you got to recognize there are times when that's going to happen. You can't keep the play in front of you all the time, so you got to turn
Certainly,
around.
given the opponent that you have tonight, I mean, that should be something that's present in your mind when you face the Oilers.
Yeah, and
that maybe you have to watch out for some speed here.
Right, and I thought they handled McDavid really well. That was clearly their plan was, hey, let's body him up, let's try to keep him to the outside, limit what he can do. Very much what we were talking about last night, and it really worked, right? He only had the one assist tonight. It was just maybe without the home ice advantage of being able to, match lines, Draisaitl just gets away from you.
Yeah, and I thought they handled McDavid well, and I think that's one of the reasons that Soucy was in the lineup as well. Soucy played like a guy who doesn't want to be a healthy scratch again. Lauzon played like he's excited to be a healthy scratch. Yeah, I think Soucy was in there because you want a guy who can kind of body up McDavid. We talked about that. Be physical on him, make it so another Oiler has to beat you. I mean, another Oiler did beat us, but it's one of those where Soucy kind of matches up well for that. So I understood him being in the lineup over Hayden Fleury, even as well as Fleury has played. He doesn't, do have that part of his game like in the same way that Soucy does.
Yeah, Soucy's definitely the better defender of those two.
Yep. So so about that power play, I know the Oilers' PK is good, but repeating the same thing over and over, someone on Facebook told me is the definition of insanity. Let's get into the power play, because I wasn't on the last couple post games at the beginning where you've talked about it. I don't have a whole lot new to say as far as the logistics of it and the strategy. I think you've probably covered that pretty well. Lack of movement, just lack of set plays that take the goalie completely out of it. Even when the Kraken got chances on the power play tonight, they were ones where the goalie was still able to more or less square up and have a shot at it, versus just plays, passing across that takes the goalie completely out of the play. You're still giving the goalie a chance. And I mean, it's a big problem now. The power play is a big problem. And you have to look at it as in the bigger picture too. You have to be getting points in games. You have to be winning games, or at least getting them to overtime over the course of a season. And when you go weeks, I'm not exaggerating, weeks without a single power play goal, that is going to start costing you games. And we saw it cost them their game against the Rangers yesterday. A power play goal, when it's tied like that, it's a totally different game. I thought there were times where it felt like it cost them the game tonight. A 5-2 final, like, oh, it wasn't that close. But it was close for a while, and there were certain moments where the Kraken had power plays. They had opportunities to take advantage of the momentum, and a power play goal would have made a world of difference in how the game went. And it's at the point where it's costing them games now on a regular basis. You can't have no power play goals for weeks.
Yeah, no, it is unacceptable at this point, basically. And the fact that they just keep coming out trying the same thing over and over, as you said, Stratic, it is the definition of insanity. Would be interested to hear if Hackstall is asked about that again tonight.
For sure.
And if his answer would be different.
Yep. This is one where it's almost unfortunate it's not the home game, because I would be very interested. I would be putting that in chat right away, what he said about the power play. I'm sure he'll be asked about it. We'll see where they go from here.
Yeah.
McDavid only 1 point. Yep. The little victories. Let's see.
Hey, Lindsay.
Hey, Lindsay. Yeah. It's not the most fun postgame, but thank you for joining us. Good game, no finish, bad defense. The defense definitely got worse as the game went. I think it just kind of fell apart once they gave up that fourth goal, and then it's just I think we all kind of had the idea, all right, it's over, and it got worse there. It was good for a while, especially keeping him to the perimeter. But one thing I want to mention is the Oilers put McDavid and Draisaitl on the same line. It was the McDavid, Draisaitl, Puljujarvi line. And every single shift they were out there, it felt like the Kraken were just on the ropes. Like it was just cycled in the Kraken and trying to get out of the shift. It's just not fair. Like the amount of talent on the ice there, 3 top 5 picks just cycling the puck around, man.
Yeah, and I'll get into that later. The whiteboard is back, everybody. I'll get into that Duncan Keith goal a little bit, but I think we'll wait a little while.
I'm looking forward to that. Second half of back-to-backs against one of the best teams in the league. Tough, but the boys got to find a way to pull some of these out. Exactly. Like you can, you have reasons for, you could say it's second half of back-to-backs. It's a good team, but at the end of the day, you can't get 0 points out of 4 from back-to-back games.
Especially games where you outplayed the opposition so much of it.
Exactly. Yeah, in both of them. I mean, it's kind of got this script to it too. Even this game, I felt like in the first period, they started slow, and then in the second half of the first period, they figured it out, tightened things up, which has happened like the last 3-4 games.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we got Mark there in the super chat. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it. Tough night. Hang in there, everyone. It is still early in their first season. That is true. It's just the start of November. We're 10 games in exactly now, less than 1/8 of the season. And there's certainly plenty of time to turn things around. They come home now. They play against Buffalo on Thursday, I believe.
Yeah.
Which means they have a couple days of practice to get in before that game, and that's some time to work on the power play. And we've seen Hackstall and this team in practice before, able to identify an area of their game to improve and improve it. So hopefully we see that.
Yeah. Do you think the Kraken shot chances are not going in due to poor shots on goal, or goalies just having great night? Seems like a lot more recently for the Kraken have had lots of shots on goal, but not many finishes. That's basically been it. They've had some bad luck, some bad bounces. One of the things, though, that is starting to really get frustrating is the lack of people there to put away rebounds. Like there are plenty of times where rebounds are there and there's just not a Kraken there. One of the things I noticed tonight was there was some clumping. Like they were clumping up a lot in front of the Oilers net. You have 2 guys basically in the blue paint. You don't really need 2 guys to be that in close on the goalie like that. That you are taking yourself out of the play at that point. Or a bunch of guys clumped up right to the side of the net. Like there was one time where all 3 guys were really right there on the same side of the net, and I'm just like, what are you doing? That's not what we want here.
Yeah, and I think part of that you could almost chalk up to a little bit of desperation, as when you've had these bounces that don't go in, all these plays in front of the net, you start to kind of go into autopilot instead of thinking about where you should be. Mm-hmm. You start to puck watch a little bit, and I know it's kind of tempting to do that when chances aren't going your way.
Yeah, but I mean, look at some of the goals scored against the Kraken, right? Go back to the first goal in the Minnesota game. I believe it was Ryan Hartman, right? He scores off that pass, obviously, but he was also in a good position that if there was a rebound, he could get that. We've seen other teams knock home rebounds from there. He's playing in front of the net, yes, but he's 5 feet away from the goalie, right? Like he is not in the crease where you have limited motion and you have, limited reaction time. He's in a place where if it shoots out a little bit to the side, they can go get it. Kraken need to start doing that.
Exactly. Goalie pads are bouncy. It bounces out usually a few feet. You've just got to be in those areas where it can come to you. And you have some time to react. Mm-hmm. That Jaden Schwartz goal, that was pretty. Splitting the defense. Good for him. He needed that one. I think, the goals can come more now, I think, now that he's finally got that first one. We broke down in the third. Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. As soon as it kind of got out of hand, it just, it happens. How many times are we going to get scored on first? We always start on the back foot. That is a great point. I'm glad you brought that up, Hunter. So it seems like the Kraken get scored on first a lot, and early in the game too. I looked it up. So they've played 10 games. Through 10 games, the Kraken have allowed 11 goals in the first 10 minutes of the game. That's more than averaging more than 1 per game. And in 3 of those games, they've been scored on the first shot on goal for the other team.
That's insane.
So, I mean,
Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, and I think was 6 out of the 10 games they've allowed the first goal of the game within the first 7 minutes. Like more than half the time they're allowing the first goal in the first 7 minutes. 11 goals total in the first 10. It's just, and Haxtell did identify like quicker starts, as an issue heading into the homestand, and I guess it's gotten a little better, but and the Oilers with a couple goals early in this one.
Yeah, it was about 7 minutes, and Draisaitl had two already. I don't know, because what's interesting about it is I feel like the Kraken have always started strong. Like they will come out of the gates going, but really it's they get beat in transition. All of these early goals that I'm thinking of as I'm running through them, going all the way back to that opening night against Vegas, they were all beat in transition. They were like so heavy on the attack to start the game that all of a sudden defenseman pinches up, doesn't make the play, got an odd man rush going the other way. Something like that happens. So it's almost weird. I mean, is the answer to be less aggressive out of the gates?
Right. Like, I don't know. I mean, that, how do you deal with that? Right?
That sounds insane, but obviously that is a problem. That's, you're getting to a little bit of a larger sample size at this point for that to keep up.
And I think it'll make a big difference too if one goes in early too. Like for the Kraken, when they put on that push, like you look at the Montreal game, Eberle scoring right away, and it's just all Kraken from then on, because there's not a chance then for them to get overeager, beat in transition. But you can't count on that every game, on a goal going in for you a minute in.
Yeah.
Lauzon needs to go. He is a liability, and I have no idea why Hack is so convinced he is okay. We've talked about Lauzon a lot on these post games. If it was up to us, I think I'll check with you, Dylan. If it was up to us, he would be the one taken out of the lineup when Hayden Fleury comes back in. He's played better of late overall. I thought this game was another rough one for him, especially that dumb penalty in the third. You're not out of the game at that point. The game's not over. And you have to know you can't do that. You can't knock another player's stick. For those of you who don't know this rule, I learned this rule when I attempted to do this in like youth hockey when I was playing squirt hockey, and I always remembered it. A teammate's stick fell on the ice, it was just sitting there, and I kind of pushed it away with my stick, so it was harder for him to go get it. Ref arm went right up. That is a penalty. You cannot do that, and Lauzon has to know that, and that's just a dumb penalty to take at that point in the game.
Yeah, no, I thought that was a ridiculous penalty for him to take. No idea why he did that. Like I talked about earlier, him and Larson both got beat on that second goal for Draisaitl. I did think this was definitely his roughest game that we've seen in a while, really since their homestand started. Yeah, at some point, given the amount of shuffling they've done defensively, it is surprising that he hasn't been taken out, just because other people have. Like he's. I understand.
Like just about everyone else on the bottom.
Right. I understand why Giordano's not being taken out. I understand Alexiak. I understand Larson. Right. They're the guys being paid. They are the names. All that stuff. But if you're just going to be kind of interchanging everybody else a couple times through, I don't understand why he hasn't been one of those guys cycled out yet.
Agreed.
Yeah.
The boys were definitely tired, and the scoreboard in the third didn't help things. Yeah, I think there was a fatigue factor at the very end. I do think they kept their energy pretty well through the second. But yeah, in the third, when the scoreboard's not going your way, it's easy for the fatigue to really settle in.
Yeah, everybody but Decord. Like I said, I don't know how much of it was a fatigue thing versus how much they just kind of gave up. I know you don't want to say that about a team ever, and we haven't seen them really give up before, but I did feel like tonight, like they were going through the motions a little bit in the third, and I don't know if it was all just fatigue.
Yeah, that's a fair point. So many rebounds with no one there to take a second shot. Yeah, we did talk about that. Schwartz and Eberle apparently can only score from the backhand. So I saw this on Twitter somewhere. I'm sorry, I would want to credit who it was, but I don't remember. But it's from the NHL stats database. The Kraken are second in the NHL in backhand shots.
All right, new power play system. Everybody switch sides, yes. Shoot from your backhand. Let's go.
Yes, everyone just only backhand shots on the power play. Let's just do that. Tough loss again tonight. Generally played well, couldn't convert multiple scoring chances. That's been the story. Kraken chances from high danger spots look great on the heat map and the XG chart, but Oilers chances from same spots come from rapid puck movement, leaving the goalie little chance. Yeah, I mean, there is a difference between, you could see between the chances the Oilers got and the Kraken got tonight. Again, they look the same on the heat map, just given where the shots come from, but there's a lot more movement behind the Oilers ones. That's a good observation.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was the Kyle Turris goal. Like, I didn't even see that pass. It was so fast, cross crease. Like the pass he got, like, oh my gosh, that was insane.
And also, can you guys explain how they could change schematically to prevent the easy backdoor tap-ins, not just this game either? So, I like the goal that comes to mind, obviously, is that Turris goal where he just taps it in. And I think that one was a case of just 3 Kraken players completely losing track of the one forward who was there. And I don't think you need to really change anything schematically. You just need to have your head up, looking around who's around you. You have a forward and both defensemen who are just all looking right at the puck. And you've just got to keep your head on a swivel. It's that simple.
Yep, I was just gonna say, head on a swivel. That's the way around that. It's what you try to teach youth hockey players in those positions, whether you're back checking forward, like Eberle on that one, or Giordano, right? Like, yes, he's in front of the net. That's great, but like, there's a guy literally standing right behind you. You got to be aware of that. And
absolutely.
So it's not really a schematic thing. They have the bodies back there. It's just if everybody's watching the puck and no one's paying attention to the rest of it, they're not going to be able to stop those chances.
Exactly. I wasn't overly impressed with Gio's performance tonight either, but he's the captain, so Lauzon's the odd man out. Bring back Fleury. Absolutely bring back Fleury. Get him back in the lineup. I am fine with him sitting this game for Susie. We talked about that, kind of the matchup, but absolutely bring him back.
Yeah, and I will comment on Gio. I was kind of thinking about it, like, with the exception of maybe Lauzon, I think Giordano's been like their worst defenseman this year.
Unfortunately, I have to agree. Early on in the season, that wasn't the case. I thought he had a good start to the season, but certainly recently. And I think the coaching staff has seen it too. They've reduced his minutes. It's kind of clear they've made him not, playing 22, 23 minutes a night anymore, which is probably for the best. But yeah, I do agree.
Yeah, just, we just talked about it with the Kyle Turris goal, right? He just let somebody behind him. This isn't the first time that's happened. The fact that he's out there on the power play, I've been talking about how he hasn't exactly been helping this power play much. So yeah, it's a little disappointing. Obviously, he's the captain and everything, but I do think he's kind of been a little disappointing.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. I think our power play actually generated more shots tonight, but alas, it's goals that matters. PK did step up late. Neutral zone turnovers. Lauzon getting beat backdoor. Awful night for him. Yeah, that's pretty much been the story. Can we please get to the Arizona, LA, Anaheim, San Jose part of the schedule? That's a good point. I was thinking about that tonight. You look at, they really haven't played a lot of Pacific Division teams. It's only 2, right? Mm-hmm. Just Vegas and Vancouver. And one of those is like far and away the best team in the Pacific. I still think Vegas is, and they were healthy at the time. And, so that just leaves one other Pacific Division game. And it was, the home opener where everyone's adjusting. So I think things will get a lot better once they start playing those type of teams, the California teams, the Arizonas, that should help quite a bit.
Yeah. And, coming up on Arizona on Saturday. So that one is coming. Got Buffalo on Thursday. I mean, they're playing really well right now out of nowhere, but hopefully things will be okay there.
We got Anaheim a week from Thursday. So
right. And,
schedule on the wall.
I know we do have Vegas coming up again. That'll be a rough game, but it will give us a chance to see the one team in the league that is worse on the power play than we are. So
yes, exactly. Yep. So that'll cancel out the Kraken's power play disadvantage. That'll be nice. They still have not scored a power play goal all season. So it could be worse. The Kraken could have Steve Spott as their power play coach. We will be in last place for a while. I thought we would lose even worse. We are just not a good team. I think the Kraken are still, they're still working things out. I don't think it's ready to totally ring all the alarm bells yet. We've talked about the criticisms of the play, but there's a lot of season left. And I think certainly, again, with games against Arizona, Buffalo, if they kind of return to the form that we think of them as, there's definitely opportunities to get out of last place. And they're already still, they're ahead of Arizona. They're, not quite last place yet. Kudos to Schwartz for his tenacity on that goal. Yeah, stuck with it. That's what you love to see.
Well, that's very much the Jaden Schwartz we haven't really seen yet. Is just
True.
that guy who's
True.
just gonna get angry and make something happen. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah, he
happy to
certainly
see
looked
that.
like that. He's just, I'm going to do this myself. I don't care.
Hmm.
My key theory for this game, Grubauer is a scary dude, and the D plays better in in his games out of fear. If I was a defenseman for Grubauer, I would not want to let him down. I will just say that much. Um,
Yep.
Man,
That icy
yeah,
German stare you'll get.
oh yeah. um, we saw that set play you showed on the whiteboard last time. It always looked like a good chance. Once they start finishing, it'll look even better. See, Dylan sees these things. They were running it again tonight.
Yeah,
Hopefully
and
they'll have some more variety of set plays in the future.
or maybe some on the power play. That would be a good place maybe for it when you got the time and space for it. But yeah, just and it's a good play, but at the same time you're also trying to shoot near side where you have very limited window on the goalie. So I like that they have a set play for those scenarios, but I still want to see some more stuff, cross crease if possible.
Yep. I say take Gio off the top power play with more of a shooting threat. Just get pucks to the net and hope for a rebound. They were guilty of overpassing on that first power play. Yeah, I someone suggested this on Twitter. We've kind of got this suggestion the last couple weeks. Put Dunn on that power play 1 unit. I would like to see that personally. I imagine you would too, Dylan.
Yeah, it's kind of unbelievable that we haven't seen it, right? Like think of how frequently in game Dave Haxtell changes the D pairs based on what he's seeing, and then think of the fact that he has not once really done that for the power play. That's wild. It's clearly a blind spot for him.
Yep. Where are the cross crease passes?
Yeah, there we go. See?
Seriously. Haxtell is already disappointing. I'm still going to give him a little more time. He's identified certain things and improved them. I certainly would have liked to see, I don't know, we'll see what he says about the power play. If one thing that's really going to, I think, affect, what I think about his assessment is what he says about the power play tonight, where if he still kind of insists it's not a problem, it's not something they need to work on, then I think that's something we could kind of hold against him, because at least seems if he says, we've got to fix this power play, there's just not enough movement on it, we'll work on it in practice, then I'll see what the Buffalo game brings, because in the past he's been able to improve things like that. So we'll see.
Yeah, and this week it's a busy week, 4 games in the 1 week, or 5 games even.
Yeah.
So, maybe it doesn't get fixed this week, but the schedule opens up a little bit moving forward. You're back in Seattle for a long stretch of time again. That would be the time to see it. If we don't start seeing it through there, through that Vegas, Anaheim, Chicago stuff, that's then when we really got to be okay, let's go, guy.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. Power play is giving me war flashback of watching the Maple Leafs power play last year. Just awful. Well, we know where Haxtell was last year. He was.
Yeah.
Let's see. So we got some negative comments about Dave Haxtell.
Yeah. I love this from Brian, though. 100 years ago, those needing refining were sent to finishing school. I just booked Everlay with the admissions office. I love that one, Brian. That is great. Good. Yeah, I mean, he's at least that goal has woken him up. He is taking a lot of shots. They are good shots. He's getting to high danger chances. How much of it is him needing the finish? How much of it is just running into good goaltending at times? I don't know. But
certainly before this game, Schwartz needed to go to finishing school. But
yeah,
looks like he's started taking some classes already.
Yeah.
Some good shots. They've got to start going in, right? Looking forward to the whiteboard breakdown. Not looking forward to seeing how the rotting husk of Duncan Keith scores on us.
Oh my gosh! All right, I'll bring it up. But
bring it out. Break out the whiteboard, Dylan.
So it wasn't so much Duncan Keith that did it. It was a lot of Draisaitl being one of the best players in the world. And that's what really impressed me, because before the goal was even scored, I noticed something that was unusual. So tell me how often you see something like this happen, right? So here's the offensive zone for the Oilers. They had McDavid was somewhere over here. They had someone else kind of more net front or whatever. They have their 2 defensemen. They were pushed up a little bit. And then Leon Draisaitl is playing right here. He was right back here behind the defenseman, center of the point area. He's like playing passes back and forth with McDavid. They're like looking for stuff, right? And then all of a sudden he just disappears out of frame. And I'm like, okay, is he like cherry picking defensively? I'm like, how responsible of Leon Draisaitl is worried that they might get beaten in the transition game. But nope, he was just sliding over here. All of a sudden comes in, give and go with McDavid, right? McDavid's got the puck, gives it right to him. He comes in. He's coming in with speed. He's coming in from somewhere unexpected. What happens to the Kraken defense at this point? Everybody starts looking at him completely. And because Duncan Keith was already pulled up, because both defensemen had already pulled up so much, Duncan Keith is literally able, I don't even think he takes a stride. He just lets natural momentum carry him like this right up front, and Draisaitl just hits him with that cross crease pass. But it was all because Draisaitl was doing something that you wouldn't expect, that a defense wasn't ready for, that is abnormal, but it's because he's a really, really good player. He's a really, really smart player. And that's kind of that stuff that we've been talking about, move. Especially on the power play from the Kraken, move, because when you move like this, it confuses defenses. You had all 5 Kraken watching this guy, not doing anything about it, mind you. They're just watching because they're like, what is happening? And that's ultimately what happened there, and that's how you get Duncan Keith all alone in front like that. But that's what happened. That's the stuff I want to see on the power play. There's no reason for the Kraken not to do that, to really get some movement going. I do think that's something that if Vince Dunn is back there running the point on the power play could happen, because he is willing to go deeper into the offensive zone at times and maybe make something happen. But that's what happened, and it was just kind of wild because I was like seeing it and I'm just like, this is such a weird setup. Like, who sets up like this 5-on-5? And then when he pulled back, I literally said out loud, I was like, is he going to play defense? Like, they have the puck. But nope, he was really smart, and he made something happen that I've never seen before, and I don't think anybody on the Kraken had seen before, and it resulted in a goal for him.
That was a great breakdown, Dylan. I did notice him kind of go out of frame, and I just figured he was getting a change, and then all of a sudden he was back. Yeah, that's the kind of creativity. That's, keeping the defense on, on their heels, delivering something unexpected that certainly, especially when you're on the power play, that one was at 5-on-5, but when you're on the power play with the extra man, that's what it affords you the ability to do, is pull players into unexpected positions. Vince Dunn, I noticed, was down behind the opposing net on one of the power plays, but it seemed like he was just kind of doing that himself. Like, it wasn't part of the plan. Like, no one else knew he was going to do that and was able to work with it. So I'd like to see some of that, that was actually planned.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's see.
Yeah, talking about the shots on the power play, yes,
Yeah.
we are not great at getting shots on the power play, and as Brian brought it up, and they still somehow managed to have more shots than they've had on the power play in some other games. It is a problem. But this is what I've been warning everybody from the beginning. The 1-3-1, Sutton, Pittsburgh forever. You just end up passing forever because you're just like, well, eventually they're going to break down, but you're just passing to the same 3 people endlessly. There's no reason for the PK to ever, do anything, move out of position. Like, you have to do something to draw the defenders out of position. I don't know.
Yep, absolutely. See, like, crashing the net as a necessity. Yeah, that's another part of it.
But not to the extent that they do. Not to the extent that they do. We don't need 3 people crashing the net all at once.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, took it too literally. How many games in would you expect the line mix and match to kind of settle? I know COVID is part of it, but it seems to change all 4 lines with one guy out. I would have hoped that some of it would have already. I mean, part of it is being 3-6-1. If they were 7-1 like the Oilers, I think there would be a lot more continuity in the lines. And I think Hackstall has kept things together as much as he can when things are going well. It's just been limited times where that's been the case. Looking from the Minnesota game to the Rangers game, he kept everything the same except for, of course, like Appleton being out with the injury. The things he had to change, McCann. So yeah, I just think it's going to depend on things working again, but it certainly seems like after losses, he's looking to change things up.
That being said, I do think that this top 6 is going to be the top 6 we're going to see for a little while. And I think that's a good thing. I really like both these lines. I thought Wenberg had a really, really good game tonight. Someone else who had a lot of good chances just couldn't get any to get through.
Gosh, that one off the post and the rebound. I mean, that's That's as good as it gets without scoring. Do you know when McCann will be back? Really missed him these past couple games. As with COVID things, no idea. That's just kind of the nature of it.
Yeah, I talked about it last night. The earliest he could come back is that Buffalo game, assuming he can get those negative tests in time.
Yep. So
But we'll see.
we'll see. We'll keep asking about it, and we'll see what Haxtell ends up telling us. Probably won't know until Thursday. Draisaitl actually shot someone's dropped stick away his last game against Vancouver. It went uncalled. I mean, as with just about anything on the ice, like the rules are the rules, but if you can manage to get a ref to not see it, if you can be sneaky enough with it, like Lauzon it was so obvious. I was even looking for it. I could tell, like he eyed it on the stick, like I'm gonna do this, So I was looking for it. You got to be a little more sneaky with it.
Yeah, you gotta. It can't be so blatantly obvious that like, hey, this is the only play I'm making is this penalty. It's a little more like like, oh, I'm going to body him up and my stick tucks in.
Yeah, the skate hit it or
Yeah,
something. Yeah.
There are ways you can try to hide it.
Yeah, the worst part is that Fleury got the same interference penalty in the third in the Wild game, so Lauzon saw it already and still did it. That is a good point.
Just give me one game. Gio, Larson, Big Rig, Dunn, Fleury, and Susie in some combinations. Yep, just at some point I gotta think we'll see some more Fleury and Susie both in the lineup, along with like a healthy Vince Dunn, because that's what was missing during the road trip.
Yep,
I gotta think it'll happen at some point.
They really rushed giving Gio the captaincy. I'm gonna have to disagree with that one, just because I think it basically was up to the team as far as I know, and they just said, well, do you want a captain? Is that something that you feel like? And again, going through all training camp, Gio was the de facto captain. Like whether you put that letter on the jersey or not, he has that same huge role in the locker room. He basically is the captain. He's doing the same thing. And I think as far as the public facing parts of that role, because in the locker room, it's whatever it is, the letters don't make it, it's the dynamic, that doesn't change. But as far as the public facing role of being a captain, I think he's done a great job in that. Whatever it is on the ice, certainly having that kind of public facing face of the franchise, he's done a great job with that. So I don't have an issue with that.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying about it feeling rushed. But yeah, I mean, if that's what the guys wanted, it was up to them. The team made that clear. It was up to the players. So if that's what they felt that they wanted, then this is what they got.
Yep. Let's see. Hey guys, tough season, but it's expected. I mean, we are expand. It is an expansion team. 10 games in. Mm-hmm. Hey guys, tough loss, but I think the lack of quality goal scoring offensively will be a problem all season. I mean, that was one of the talking points before the season is how much trouble are the Kraken going to have scoring goals?
Yeah, where are the goals going to come from?
We asked this question in in July and August, as early as May and June, really, even before there was a roster. And it's kind of rearing its head so far. Kings stink, but they've been on a roll this weekend.
Hey, the Kings are sneaky good. They got all those, young prospects coming up.
And as Dylan will tell you, he was definitely more bullish on them than I was in the season preview. I'm waiting until the new year to make any big sweeping judgments. Gives them enough time to build chemistry and establish roles lines. Yeah, I think every Kraken fan probably has a kind of a date, whether they explicitly know it or not, where they're kind of reserving judgment until then. And I do think that's a smart thing to do. Obviously if this is February and March and we're having these same issues, we're having these same conversations, then it's a big problem. But yeah, there's got to be a certain amount of leeway, and I think it depends from person to person how much you're willing to give them.
Yeah, and kind of playing off that Stratic, I don't know, just not enough time to that might be too long to give them if you want to make the playoffs or even come close. New Year would be decent ways into the season, but I do think the first 25 is something. That number.
What is that? There's some stat about Thanksgiving as a date where however many percent teams. I got to look that up. But Thanksgiving, I keep hearing also is that if you're not in playoff position, that's not good for you.
Yeah, so those are kind of the things whenever I've been around hockey, those have been the numbers and dates that come up. As far as okay, that's when you'll see coaches start getting fired if that's what a team feels needs to happen. Not trying to say anything about Hackstall with that comment, but that's really where it's like, okay, if we're going to be making serious changes, this is the time to do it while we still have enough runway to turn the season around. So we'll see what the team does. And then also from Stratic, I feel the team has responded well to changes of lines and tactics 5-on-5. They've made changes and been adaptable. I wish they'd look at the power play in the same way. I got to think that they will if it continues to be this bad. At some point, Hacksaw will be unable to ignore it. And so, like I said, I want to wait until, they have that prolonged time in Seattle, not a lot of games. They can get some good practice time in and maybe shake things up. It's unfortunate that that's still like a week and a half away or a week away, but I think that's realistically the best time for them to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm. See, really depends on what expectations you started the season with. I separated what Vegas did from the team. Thought the playoffs is a good goal, but I'm not going to be mad if they don't. Yeah, definitely want to see more done on the power play. Yeah, I was just looking. Just quickly scanning Twitter to see if I could find a Hackstall comment on the power play. Couldn't find anything. Sounded like the message is, we keep getting chances. Don't, keep that going. We'll finish them eventually.
Yeah. And Pickles again took Francis a few years to build up in Carolina. Yeah. You would hope for given the expansion process, maybe you could jumpstart that a little bit. But the one thing you do lack in the expansion process is a McDavid or a Draisaitl or that kind of franchise centerpiece player who can turn a game on a dime for you, who can just create offense out of nowhere when your team needs it. And that is just something that, is going to have to come kind of more naturally for the Kraken.
Sure. Even with the new expansion format, best case scenario, you're Vegas, you're going to the cup final. You still don't have a guy quite like that. You still have to acquire that from outside.
It took a lot of guys stepping up beyond reasonable expectations for them, right? Like William Karlsson, nobody would have predicted 41 goals, but but kind of working off of that, if we're going to suck, we should just tank for Shane Wright.
I mean, it is a good draft class next year. I think it's too early to be talking about all that, obviously, but
I think
but if things don't go well, and it's always a possibility. It's still a good draft class next year.
Yeah, I think that's one of those things definitely don't want to tank in the Kraken's position given the division and all that stuff. But if you just have this prolonged series of bad luck, the power play never really gets going, ending up maybe in that lottery mix this year wouldn't be the worst consolation.
Yep. I'm going to be frustrated because they're in a lot of ways so close, and I think they have the players to do it. So why not do it? I mean. It does feel like that, right? And you look at the preseason predictions, this was supposed to be a 98, 95, 100-point team. But it's got to come together.
Yeah, and going into Superfly, I think this isn't a playoff team, but that's not trying to be negative or anything. There's just not enough quality offensively and too many high danger chances to keep out of the own net. Though I like the way how hard they work, and I think we've got a good solid core of players we can build around, and it's a longer build. I mean, they have depth, and that is certainly something that is not something to be ignored. Talked about maybe you don't have that high-end superstar player, but when you have the depth that they have, I still think you can be a playoff team. Those teams do well in the playoffs if you can get there. But one of the things that, we talked about early, right after the expansion draft was, yes, they don't have a bunch of guys that, are going to score 30 goals or anything for this team. So it's going to be one of those things where every night somebody's going to have to step up. And there have been nights where that's happened, right? Brandon Tanev stepped up some nights. Hayden Fleury stepped up some nights, right, to score some goals. But it's one of those things where guys have to step up and just be like, okay, tonight is my night. I'm going to push this team to victory. That's kind of what Vegas did when they were in that situation, their expansion year. That's kind of what the Kraken have to do to, consistently win some games, I think. We just haven't seen it totally yet in some of these games.
Yeah, and speaking of someone who has chosen some nights to step up, Donato has been pretty consistent bringing movement too. Yeah, he's been one of those guys one of the few guys who's always thinking puck to the net and thinking net front drive first.
Yeah, would love
which
to
I
see a
love.
little bit more usage of him on the power play too.
Yes, yeah, it worked in the preseason and early in the regular season. That could be a help to one of their units.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see.
Let's see.
Even in these first weeks with some tough losses, we're easily better in the bottom 10 to 12 teams, which puts us in the playoff hunt. Yeah, I think there is some separation between the Kraken and the truly bad teams in the NHL. We'll see that when they play Arizona. I think,
Mm-hmm.
there's definitely, and some of the other Pacific Division teams. There's definitely, the Kraken are certainly better than some of those teams really at the bottom of the league.
Yeah, and I do see the heard Shane being called the next McDavid, but who knows with draft picks these days. I haven't seen a ton of him. I will say he's not the next McDavid. McDavid is truly like next level special, but Shane Wright is very, very good, and I do look forward to watching some more of him as the season progresses a little bit, and I can start making some videos for the channel about the prospects upcoming in this year, and even some of the prospects the Kraken have already drafted and how they're doing.
Yep. Yeah, Riker Evans is having a good start,
Mm-hmm.
as we figured he might.
Yeah.
Um, did they ever manage to separate Dunn and Nuge? Was that a matchup the Oilers were going for?
I didn't notice it, but that would make sense. I mean,
It would.
Nugent Hopkins is the perfect guy to kind of take advantage of what he's doing out there.
Yep.
So yeah, that wouldn't surprise me at all. And it's hard. It's hard if you're the away team for that separation.
Yep. Sometime during the second period, there was a behemoth of a monster gliding into the ozone, stick handling and getting the puck deep. It was Alexiak. I want to see Alexiak done and let it gel. Interesting. Yeah, I remember. I think I know the time you're talking about, where Alexiak like moved the puck up the ice. Man, when he gets going with speed, it is something to watch.
Yeah, and
Alexiak done. What do you think? What's your good?
I don't know about that because I feel like Alexiak has been a little rough defensively so far this year. I will say he finally started really using his reach tonight. Was excited to see that and noticed that a couple times in the defensive zone. That is something about Alexiak, though, going back to his days in Dallas. He didn't really have it earlier in his career, but it awoke in Dallas for him. Going ahead and joining a rush or being the rush himself, just being like, hey, I'm massive and they can't, body me off the puck, so I might as well come in and kind of not necessarily drive the net, but certainly drive hard into the zone and try to make something happen. I do think that, it is possible that with an Alexiak Dunn thing, they might both be too aggressive together. We have seen Alexiak pinch up at times, not quite make the play, and all of a sudden you got a rough transition thing going back the other way. We've seen the same from Dunn. I would hate for that to become a regular occurrence if they're out there at the same time. But certainly, if you want, why not throw Dunn and like Hayden Fleury when he's in the lineup out there on the power play? Right? Like there's no reason we have to stick with one defenseman. If those guys are the guys that can take shots, let Dunn then move down. Let Hayden Fleury run the point with his slap shot,
right.
and let Dunn move
Dunn
down
on the right half wall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're Dunn on the right half wall, Fleury up top. And one thing that Hayden Fleury did mention, I don't think I've mentioned it in any of these post games, but it was after one of the two games where he had a billion shots. He said that he was paired with Vince Dunn most of the game. And he said, one thing I really like is I'm being paired with Dunner, and he just takes so much attention off of me that everyone's going to rush him. They're looking for him offensively. And so a lot of times I'll just have a lot of room because they're gravitating toward him, and I have room to get a shot off, and I can take advantage of my shot, which that could work.
Yeah. Vegas still doesn't have an elite center. They don't have an elite center, but they do have some, big time goal scoring wingers on that team. Max Pacioretty, Mark
the way
Stone,
they're built, they rely on the wingers to kind of carry the lines, and they'll have a guy like Chandler Stevenson, as a center to, using the wingers with him. He's a good fit there. But yeah, they're built a little differently. They rely on the wingers. And they don't have an elite center. They might in the next couple weeks or so, though, if they make a Jack Eichel deal, which it's been rumored they're getting close, but who knows when that's going to happen.
Yeah. But they still have some big time offensive guys up front for them.
Yeah.
Expected scoring goals to be a challenge, but I'm more concerned about the goaltending and defense. Way too leaky when the margin of error for error is so small. It has been an issue at times, right? Grubauer being a little leaky is certainly something we've discussed at several points. finishing, man. Like I just feel like there are opportunities for the Kraken that they are not taking advantage of, or they're
Yeah.
getting unlucky, or they're just getting robbed by some goalie playing out of his mind. And I think that, some of those things go the other way earlier in the game, especially because, like I said, right, they've been coming out of the gates actually pretty hot, maybe too hot, and that's what's costing them ultimately. But I just feel I got to think if they start scoring on the power play in the first and second period, maybe we don't run into these issues where they get really leaky in the third period, and the games are very different.
Yeah, playing with the lead could be huge. Alexiak driving the net is absolutely terrifying. Check out the tape from the 20 Stanley Cup final.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Oh, I remember. Yeah, that is something. I like to see him drive the net occasionally when it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of elite prospects, did you guys see Caulfield got sent down to the Laval Rockets? Any thoughts?
I mean, maybe Montreal is tanking. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, hey, maybe they're making their play for Shane Wright. Yeah, I mean, Cole Caulfield's a great player, and he's gonna he is is going to be a star in the NHL, and sometimes it just players have cold streaks, and they feel like that's something that can help them.
Yeah, I mean, it's not unheard of to send young players down to try to build up some confidence, right? Playing against a little bit lesser competition. That is something that happens. And there are times, especially when a team is in a rough spot, going through losing streaks, not playing really well, where maybe you want to protect them from maybe some of the toxicity that kind of arises from teams in some of those situations. And you don't want that to maybe affect your young potential star player. But they have their own reasons, I'm sure. I'm just speculating.
Yeah, exactly. Alexiak and Dunn sounds good. Big Rig has better offensive skills than I expected. Yeah, it's you get some offense there, but defensively, as we talked about. Quick Buffalo preview.
Yeah.
That team is unrecognizable after last offseason without Eichel.
Yeah.
All right, Dylan.
Yeah, so
preview the powerhouse is the Buffalo Sabres.
The red hot Buffalo Sabres. I mean, they're kind of doing what we want the Kraken to be doing, where they're just kind of rolling four lines every night. Someone's stepping up, someone's making plays. They don't really have one person right now that's going out and really leading this team. Olofsson kind of, as far as from a points perspective, but they just got a bunch of guys that are have like 3 goals so far this year, right? They're just kind of death by 1,000 cuts right now, and there is something to be said for that. That is kind of what we wanted the Kraken to be. Hasn't really turned out that way for them, but I got to think they're gonna revert to the mean at some point.
Yeah. And with Buffalo, I mean, skill what? Like if you outwork them, the skill should take over, and you should get some goals.
Mm-hmm. The talk about us was trying to win games 2-1, but that's hard if you give up 3 or 4 a night. It's also hard if you're giving up a goal in the first 10 minutes every single night. Definitely not the way to get it done. The shoelaces from Lindsay. I've never seen that. I'm with JT. I've never seen a situation like that before.
Yes. Yeah, I'm surprised it's taken us this long to talk about it. Yeah, the shoelaces. I've never seen that before. I don't know how that happens.
Yeah, and that's what everyone was referring to as far as did they ever get done in Nuge unstuck, I think.
Oh, okay. Yep.
We were too... Yep.
Yeah, we were thinking matchups. We were tactics.
It's like, I didn't notice that, but I guess it makes sense.
They were literally stuck together.
Yeah, they were literally stuck together. You're right.
Wow. Going down past all the comments with that.
Yeah. At work, how bad was it? It was rough. It wasn't great. Not the worst game we've seen from them, but
yeah. I mean, take your mental image of like McDavid skating circles around people, and that's how it was going to go, and just put Draisaitl in there.
Yeah. I was going to say because we actually kept him off the.
Well, no, I say just put Draisaitl in your place mentally, and you've seen the game.
Yeah, that was a little bit of it. What's the one item? You think they could focus on and improve in practice going into Thursday? The multiple practice days last week seemed to make a big difference. Power play.
Me? Yeah, power play. Got to be it. And I will be at practice. I will keep you all apprised if you follow us on Twitter of how that is going. I will let you know how the power play practice is going because believe me, I will be watching for it.
Yeah. I do like this setup from Stratic for the power play. Fleury up top, Dunn on the right half wall, Gord net front, Donato and Wenberg to fill it out. That I think that would do it. Assuming they're going to play like we know those guys can play, and they're going to
Yeah.
be, they're going to move around. Dunn is going to move around and use some of the freedom he has for not being stuck at the point. Because you could stick anybody out there if they're just going to sit there and pass it around. It's not going to work. But I do like that potential setup.
Agreed. I firmly believe that Lausanne will be scratched for Thursday and Fleury will be back. Think that's fair. I certainly think it's fair. Will it happen? I don't know.
Yeah, but maybe that penalty for Lausanne will be the thing that kind of wakes Hackstall up, and he says, "Okay, let's try a game."
Yeah,
without
talk about
you.
fair. That's a good reason.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of where the heck has Geeky gone, I see him rip a couple shots, but other than that, disappears. Yeah, seems like he's been off since he took that hit to the head.
Yeah,
I don't ever speculate about injury stuff or something that might be lingering, but that's kind of the moment where it all turned for him. And he's been playing down on the third, fourth lines now. I don't know that. I just hope he's feeling all right.
That I think is part of it. Part of it was when they were at home and home team has control of line matchups and stuff. He was put in a more defensive role during a lot of those home games. He was out there. He was playing pretty good defensively and stuff. So weren't seeing him much in the offensive zone, but he was still making an impact. That he was still playing pretty well.
Soucy and Fleury have been scoring and look better defensively. Try it out and see what happens. Oh yeah, we did suggest the Soucy Fleury.
Yep, why not? Thankful for Caulfield. He got sent down. There's absolutely no way I would want Caulfield spending another night in that current disaster. Let him get his mojo back. Yep, I mean we've seen
talked
it
about
work.
that as a reason.
Yep, we've seen it work before. No reason to think it won't happen here either. He is really talented. Then adding to that potential power play we saw above, if you don't like Donato and Wenberg on power play 1, 2 other guys, but I want Dunn half wall and Gord net front. I agree. I think it's definitely worth a shot.
Maybe Donskoy is bumper just instead if you don't want one of those two, just because he has experience playing there.
Yeah, and he's like the one guy who can like hold off defenders. Like him and Wenberg, I feel like have been the only Kraken who consistently have been able to puck handle in traffic this season.
Yeah, agreed. Buffalo's unrecognizable because they're winning.
Definitely.
I feel like we fall a lot.
Hey, that just means
on that one.
That just means you're trying. In my experience, me personally, not the best skater in the world, but I do have decent balance.
That's what we tell the squirt kids that we coached, right?
Yeah.
Don't be afraid if you fall. It just means you're trying hard.
Yeah, but it does. It means you're putting yourself in positions where you're going to get hit and knocked off off your feet a little bit.
Likely means you're around the puck. Guys
right.
don't fall when they're far from the puck usually.
Right. Or you're getting tripped up by a skate because, again, they're trying to make a play on the puck or something. So now there have been times where I've seen guys just straight up blow a tire. It happens. I don't know that it's happened to them more than any other team.
Yeah,
but
it's part of hockey. Ice is slippery.
Yeah. 5-2 final was close to this hour. Responded to the person who missed it.
Yeah.
Don't know if this was covered. Don't know if this was covered earlier in the chat, but thoughts on how the goalies got starts for this back-to-back. So before the back-to-back, there was talk in our chat about, the idea of maybe the Rangers game is going to be easier. So you maybe start Grubauer to try to like lock up that win in theory. And then, Decord, maybe you're not supposed to beat the Oilers anyway. I don't know if I always agree with that. I think you should try to play for the 4 points instead of trying to only play for 2. I never liked the idea of playing for some of that stuff, even though I defend the loser point. But yeah, I mean, I think they handled it as well as they could. I like Decord and his aggressiveness going against an Oilers team.
Yeah, because I brought this up on Twitter before the back-to-backs that I wasn't sure about that idea of starting Grubauer for that first one. And I mean, my whole thing was I thought the Oilers were the tougher team, and also that you were just going to get a guy peppered with shots, and Grubauer seems to do better in those situations when he's facing a lot of action. So I would have put him in for that one. That's just me. That's my thought on it.
Yeah, but I do think moving forward we can feel very confident with Decord in these kind of situations because that guy did not quit tonight, and I love
for
to
sure.
see that.
for sure. And I would have trusted him against the Rangers, or the Oilers.
Yeah.
Sergeant Pickles in the super chat. Thank you so much. Cheers, guys. RJ, give Dylan the press pass. Yeah. So I know you must have listened to the podcast that was out today. We did talk about that, the press pass. We got a Gatorade though, which we'll see which one of us gets it there. Thank you, for Sergeant Pickles.
Yeah,
in
thanks,
the super
Pickles.
chat.
And things are working towards that. I'm gonna be up there for the Anaheim and Chicago game, so we will see.
Anaheim and Minnesota.
Anaheim, Minnesota. Yeah, that's right.
Yep. Chicago games after that. But
yeah.
So Dylan will be joining us. Yeah. Good night, Brian.
Yeah. Night. Thanks for joining us as always.
And you know what? This is, as we're getting here, this is reminding me, as we talked about last time, we got to plug the merch, Dylan. I think it's time.
Oh gosh, we totally forgot again. Yes.
Because you know what? I even remembered. I'm gonna bring the shirt here.
Yep.
Check out this logo. How cool this looks on a T-shirt, right?
Yep. Link in the description.
Really cool?
Link in the description.
If you want to help support us, and get a really cool shirt with a great logo to boot, show your support for Emerald City Hockey.
Yep.
If you're here joining us for the post game live, we know you're a big fan. You could show off your Emerald City Hockey fan up here. We've got hoodies too. I wear this one around a lot. You'll probably see me wearing this around at Gabe's if you're outside the arena. There we go. We've plugged the merch.
Yep, I would
plug the merch.
I would do the same, but they're actually all dirty right now. So sorry, guys.
Because you've been wearing it.
Exactly.
That's the point. Because they look good.
Yeah. I believe things will turn our way soon, even if it doesn't. It's blast watching hockey. Grateful for a team. Yep, it's important not to lose sight of that. Seattle, there was no team last year, so just in that regard, we are doing better. And I do want to give the shout out to Alex up above for mentioning Alex Killorn falling a lot, and he has 2 Stanley Cups, because that is definitely
so true.
As long as you're falling forward, it's okay. That's a great joke. All right. Totally unrelated to the game, but everyone I've talked to thinks the Junior Squid intermission team has the cutest logo. That's it. It's adorable.
It is. Yeah. It is the cutest logo for sure. It is certainly cuter than ours. I will give them that.
Yeah. And yes, I remembered, Lindsay. I hope you enjoy the game on Thursday. Hopefully things go a little bit better than tonight for the Kraken. But yeah, if you can make it, let us all know how it went. And we always love hearing that from everybody when they go to the games. Yeah, and Sergeant Pickles bringing up the Fear the Deep shirt we got. So
yeah, from the T-shirt giveaway. Yeah, we'll have another one of those hopefully soon. We're at I think just past 2,600 Twitter followers. We get to 3,000. We're doing another one.
Yeah,
the followers have been coming in fast, so yeah, that should happen pretty soon.
Yeah. But I do think that's going to do it for us tonight. Hour and 5 minutes. Pretty good. So yeah, Thursday night, it's Buffalo. I believe it's another 6:30 start. I think all the games for the rest of this week are 6:30 starts, which is interesting. No, it's a 7 o'clock.
No, it's
okay.
7. It's 7.
Yeah, 7.
And that is 7.
And that is Pacific Coast time, because I do know there's plenty of you out there that are not local to this time zone. So when we do mention, we are mentioning local time.
Yep, 7 Pacific, 10 Eastern, yeah. For those of you who are... What dedication to stay up for that.
I could never be a sports fan on the East Coast. Ever. I don't know how to do it. But props to you that do. All right, so that's going to be it. We'll see you all Thursday. And yeah, take care.